Why you don't need a token.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to this panel where we will be discussing various topics about tokenization, why companies can adopt tokens, then the positives, the negatives, regulations, use cases, and much more. Firstly, I would like to have the speakers to introduce themselves. Fabio, want to go, sir?
Hi, good morning. My name is Fabio. I'm the founder and CEO of Root Codex. We're a software company specializing in casinos and blockchain development.
Hi, I'm Matthew. I'm CEO of Simply Staking. We specialize in blockchain infrastructure and blockchain tech in general.
Hi, my name is Sabine. I'm the founder of CryptoPlay, which is a consultancy firm for business development in iGaming and crypto.
Hi, I'm Mike. I'm Chief Marketing Officer of OneWin Crypto, a Web3 department of a global iGaming brand.
Great. So, starting out about the first topic. Everyone heard about tokens nowadays. There's security tokens, there's utility tokens, and everyone sort of passed the phase of the hype that we had back in 2020, 2021, where people were aggressively tokenizing every business out there. But starting out from a token side, from your perspectives, how do you see it being utilized well, and what are the sort of positive side and the negative sides of having a token nowadays, even knowing that we have regulations taking place in various markets, and even obviously that there's sort of certain limitations in how we can adopt across certain retail or consumers? Fabio.
So I think from a token perspective, obviously, like anything else, there's always the positives and the negatives. So we've had the pleasure to be part of a couple of ICOs. In fact, as Mark mentioned, the famous hype, where a token would sell within 2 weeks. And we're talking, obviously, in the millions. Now, obviously, that phase has finished. And however, I still think there's a space for a token. However, like any other technology, it does not apply to everyone. So where there was the phase of big data, does everyone have or need big data? No. So a token is the same thing. I would say that certain companies would need a token. So an example would be, for example, a venture capitalist. They're trying to raise funds. As long as it's regulated and everything is done in a controlled fashion so that an investor putting in their money, they're not at risk. Like, for example, most tokens that are on pump.fun where they end up getting rug pulled, or for example, where a token goes on sale and within 2 weeks it goes to zero. I think there is definitely a positive and something where you actually can raise funds without the bureaucracy that there is nowadays with actually launching an IPO, where essentially a company tries to raise funds in order to go public.
So tokens, as Fabio said, right? Tokens were a great way to form capital when you weren't really allowed to form capital, or at least that's how it was used, right? So you have a project, you have some idea, and you want to raise capital, and it's hard to do worldwide. So the concept of a token arose, and it was very useful. What you end up with, though, and what we've seen in the crypto space, is that once you have a token, then your project and success is only tied to the price of the token. So now you're a bit screwed, right? Because the product that you're building is not necessarily the most important thing, but the price of your token is. And that can be very problematic, because you might be building some really cool stuff, but if whoever bought the token does not feel that they're getting their money's worth, or they lost 90% of their value, then they're going to be upset and it's not going to work. I think tokens are useful in some circumstances, but as with all new technology, you first have a phase where everyone kind of is very excited about it, and then you realize, well, this is not what it was meant to be, and then slowly you find new use cases for the tech.
No, valid point. And something to add on what Matthew said is that at the end, the token itself is the marketing stream of the technology behind it. People see the token. If we didn't see Ethereum, no one would ever know about it realistically. Then people started getting interested about the underlying tech of the token itself. Speaking about marketing, how do you see it, Mike, evolving, being a CMO, and the limitations of advertising the token itself, the utilities in different markets, and so on?
Yeah, thank you for this question. Let me highlight some pros and cons regarding token from the iGaming perspective. First of all, some products, they believe that token will solve all their problems with UX, problems with retention, but that's false. First of all, you should build your product, you should build your economy, and after that, you need to think, is it worthy to start a token? Is it worthy or not? And I want to highlight that it's very costly. Marketing of a gambling token is challenging and costly. For example, running a campaign, it may cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then every influencer knows that you are running a gambling token. So sometimes they will avoid posting your ads. Sometimes they will scam you. So for me, it's really an issue. And after that, will a token boost your product or not? Will you gain new people? Will you gain new Web3 guys from your token? And I want to highlight that there are two different approaches. The first approach is to build a Web3 product from scratch, a Web3 casino from scratch, and implement tokenization, implement NFTs, and so on. And this approach for me is much easier than the second approach. The second approach is very popular. When a popular Web2 products, they are trying to migrate to Web3, and they are trying to find new crypto audience. They are trying to add some crypto features, for example, tokens, for example, NFTs, staking, and so on. And for them, sometimes it can even kill your product, because Web2 users, they think that something changed, and for them it's very difficult to, I don't know, very difficult to try new Web3 technologies.
Sabine?
So from a marketing side, I would also say, like, look first, why you need a token? What benefit would the user have by you having your own token, rather than just use existing tokens out there that can be traded, that have liquidity, that have volume? And what is your go-to-market strategy? And also, like, it depends what kind of company, because you are a casino platform like iGaming. But then there is also, from the crypto side, there is like wallet providers. Do they actually really need a token? And as Matthew mentioned, it was mostly used as a way to raise funds, which is the best way for a crypto project, because they have basically no risk. They give away tokens, they don't need to give away liquidity, and it is pure gambling, because then they list it on an exchange and it's open source, right? But then again, you need use cases, and I have been in crypto since 2017. I have seen so many projects, they have been only tied to the price of the token. Like in the hype, then it went up, and then the project, they raised all the funds basically in Ethereum. Also Ethereum crashed and they got bankrupt and had to close down, right? So it is, nowadays, the investors, they are very, very cautious. You look at the use case, they look at the team, they look at what do I actually gain, what is the project behind, what is the tech behind. So it has become much more challenging, and you actually need a product, a working product, and then you should release a token. Like, in my opinion, work on the product, build followers, build a team, build like everything, and then release the token, and then give the users incentives to actually buy the token. Like it is in a casino, you get special rebates, you get like certain sign-up bonuses. You get special tournaments or whatever, like real use cases, and the same is what crypto wallets and crypto exchanges do. If you hold the token, you get a discount on trading fees. You get some certain benefits, like Crypto.com does it actually personally really well. Like if you buy a lot of their tokens, you get like airport launch for free, you get Netflix, Spotify for free, you get staking benefits. So that is the main thing, build a reason for the consumer to actually have the token, and then it makes sense. Other than that, I would say stick to USDT or USDC.
The main question is, can you build the same ecosystem without a token? I believe that Crypto.com, they could create the same benefits, the same VIP program with stablecoins, with fiat money.
Of course they could, but how would they have raised the money then? That's the question, because...
IPO.
Something to add, eventually, from experience myself and working across a good number of projects, I would say that that's one of the first questions that the business owner asks. Why should I create a token? What is the difference? What are the benefits that I will have on the table or across my business when having the token itself? And as Sabine mentioned as well, another famous question that people ask is, why should we create our own token when we can utilize another stable coin? And that's a question that I would like to ask from your perspectives. Why should a company create his own token when they can use USDC, which is regulated nowadays in Europe? There's USDT as well on the other side. And even obviously we're seeing the euro being digitalized, and other obviously currencies are coming in the pipeline. So yeah, Fabio, how do you see this? Why should we create a token?
It's not an easy question, but obviously I think if I had to prioritize things, I would start utility first, always. So if you have that in check, I would say brand. I think Crypto.com, as in being one of the largest out there, I think obviously from a brand perspective, having their own coin, which is CRO, I think there's a nice brand element to it. And would you say that is a priority? No, but ultimately I think it does add that effect to it. I think also some people, they also create their own stable coins, you know. So yesterday I was talking to a payments company and they created their own stable coin, because ultimately from an exchange perspective it makes things easier, they have more control, even from a different smart contract. So I think there are quite a few benefits, but I think as Sabine mentioned and everyone else mentioned, if there is no utility, I would definitely not bother doing it. And stick to the stable coins, as Mike said before, so yeah.
Very good point, Matthew.
Yeah. So in the old times, by old times I mean like some years back, right? If you were Ethereum, there was nothing before you, right? So having that token that is core to the blockchain had its use cases. Today, with so many stable coins, I mean, most of us just want to pay someone else. And you just need a unit of account. Stable coins are great, you don't need a token. But there are some protocols that are coming up today, some projects that can utilize a token in a good way, right? So for example, I don't know how many of you know what Hyperliquid is. It's like a decentralized exchange. It's very useful for them to have a token because they can sort of push buybacks, right, with this. So it's kind of like them IPOing and making use of, making use of the revenue they get on chain to push back for the token price to go up. At some point, they will share the revenue with whoever owns the token. So it becomes a bit like a stock, right? So but you can do it. So if you're going to IPO, you first build a business, and it's making money, and then or at least you have like hundreds of millions of users, and then you can IPO. In crypto, this was changed completely. So first you have an idea, then you raise a ton of money, and then maybe you have a product. That doesn't work, obviously, because if you have no product, then the only thing you have is a token. And then that is super speculative, and it becomes like pump.fun. But pump.fun is another good example. I don't know who here has used pump.fun to create meme coins. Meme coins are like a great way of speculating. Pump.fun, what does it do? It says, I'm going to give anyone who has like this token a part of my revenue. So it's like a stock. Then it's very useful. So there are these use cases where it can be good to have a token. I think for what you both mentioned is tokens that are related to like a player's personalized experience. That is very useful. So if I have a token that has maybe no speculative value, but it belongs to me, and I have all my characteristics on it, and I can add to it, and I can get bonuses from this, then it becomes useful because this token has now utility. It's not just speculation. And utility is where like, things become useful.
No, very valid. And mentioning the iGaming side, by having a token, from experience, it makes things easier for the business to even roll out royalty, VIP, and much more utility. Why? Because one of the big problems nowadays is that every crypto casino needs to onboard multiple currencies in order to offer a variety of cryptocurrencies to their audience. So eventually having their own standardized and localized token within their platform, it's much more easier, even from marketing, from a technical side. So in general, it's sort of the way to go when it comes to crypto casinos. But yes, I don't know if you have any feedback on this, Mike or Sabine.
No, I mean, I totally agree. If you have a use case, like if you have a lot of users, you have already a project, go for a token. Like you can, as you mentioned, like you can roll out incentives. And it is also marketing, because if the price of a token goes up, it is essentially also promoting the project and the company behind. The other way, it's the opposite. But so I would, if you have utility, but to nowadays launch a token and a project from scratch is so difficult, because investors are not going to put money into a project easy anymore. You really need to build something before, like some working product, followers, engagement on social media. So that is number one. And then if you have a running project and utility you can provide, then go for a token, not the other way around as it was 2017-18.
Yeah, I fully agree with the point that a token without utility won't be successful. But remind me any successful gambling tokens. Okay, Shuffle, then Rollbit, and that's it. Even such big companies as OneWin or Stake.com, they do not have their own tokens. So because it takes time, and you need to prove your investors, your owners, why you need a token. So how your product will benefit from having a token. And from me, from my side, the easiest approach to transform Web 2 casino to Web 3 casino is just adding new methods of payment. Add cryptocurrency, add USDT, add USDC. Then you can add on-ramp solutions that will help users to purchase crypto from their bank account, from their Apple Pay account. And that's it. And after that, you can go to CEO and show benefits from crypto and discuss, is it possible to hire some guys for 6 months, for 9 months to make tokenomics for you, for making crypto marketing for our product, and that's it. You just need to show the numbers to your CEO. Let's start with small steps.
Fabio?
Yeah, I think the thing that I wanted to add on to what Sabine mentioned is, because we mentioned a lot about utility, but what about the tokenomics and the marketing side? So in 2020, we had the luxury of working with a number of companies in terms of ICOs. Now, one was a behemoth where they had a massive marketing budget. So they did really well. And then there were the other guys where they were really keen, obviously, on starting their own token. The utility was great, so essentially it was a kind of a crowdfunding thing. But then the marketing budget was very, very small, and obviously it failed. So I think the tech is very, very easy to roll out. There are so many launch pads where you can create your own token. But the reality is some people tend to underestimate how much budget you have to invest from a marketing perspective. And I would also add, even though I'm not a tokenomics expert, you do need someone who actually knows what they're doing when setting up the tokenomics. So tokenomics is just a big word for how the coin works. As in, what are the fundamentals behind it, what happens when people buy, sell, etc., etc. And a lot of people get that wrong. And then there ends up people getting, there's a rug pull and all of these things. So I would say utility, marketing, and tokenomics, I would say those are the three things which you need to nail down if you're interested in starting a token.
Very good. So we're mentioning eventually the positive side of having a token, the utilities, marketing, budgets, how we approach in adopting a token. Let's shift on the negative side. What are certain use cases that we saw that, as you are mentioning, Fabio, tokenomics, which looking at 2020, the biggest crypto projects out there failed because of mainly their tokenomics. You know, we had Axie Infinity, biggest game that was being played. It was a very good community behind it, but eventually tokenomics didn't make things work. So from your perspectives, what sort of we can share for people to learn from use cases that eventually the project failed due to the token?
So basically, it's mainly inflation. You like Axie Infinity, they gave so many tokens away for free. People played, especially the early players, they got tokens and the token price 1000x'd. So they pumped the tokens and there was just not enough liquidity to buy up all the selling pressure they had. And it was basically impossible. So then they tried to get some deflationary tokenomics into it, but it was too late. And that's basically why all the NFT games failed.
Yeah, so if you have a token, and the main use for your token was to raise capital, right? And if you think of it as so then it's quite similar to the stock of your company. And you don't go around and giving stock of your company to people, because as soon as you do that, your company is not worth very much, right? And I think in crypto, that's what happened. We said, sure, let's go. We need everyone to own our token because the token needs to be decentralized. And then after some time, it's decentralized and you keep putting inflation into it. So you keep creating new tokens, minting new tokens. Imagine it was the stock of your company. You would never, ever think of doing this. But it's exactly the playbook that was run for a few years. And that's why they fail. So I think if you have a token, you have to be kind of greedy with the token. And you see that the projects that are kind of top in the, let's say, by market cap, right? Apart from Bitcoin and Ethereum. But Ripple owns a lot of its XRP. Chainlink owns a lot of its link. If you start distributing it to people, these people, you need to convince them to keep working to put the price of that asset up.
In fact,
it's not very simple.
In fact, you're mentioning a very asked question. It's a fact. A lot of people ask about Ripple, XRP. And my answer is always that realistically, to utilize their technologies, you don't need to acquire XRP. So when it comes to price going high, it's kind of speculative, because realistically, you don't need XRP to build on XRP or to utilize their own utility. So again, in the beginning we mentioned the cryptocurrency on the front face is the marketing side of the underlying tech. So what you see out there is to understand eventually and to get within the network of the system. But yes, I don't know, Mike, from your end, how do you see this evolving? What are the negatives? of tokens, and how do they fail?
For me, the main negative is timing, because for one win it took 1.5 years to list a token, and it was quite challenging. We started with the mini app to make an airdrop. It was a mini app in Telegram, and after that we were building tokenomics, we were creating marketing campaigns. Then, of course, it's very difficult to find a company for listing. For example, for Bybit or Binance, it will cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars to list your product. So, for me, the timing is the main issue. And marketing budgets, of course.
So yes. Yes, sure.
One other thing, so this is one thing talking about the very large projects, but if you're a very small project, right? So you're starting a company, you have a token. Once you launch it, apart from the costs that you mentioned, so massive marketing cost, massive time cost, you need to build like community around it. I use community because it's in some way. But then you have to provide liquidity for this. And providing liquidity is expensive. And as soon as there is no liquidity, then your project is immediately called a scam, right? Because people can't sell it, the price is not going up, so now you're a scam. So it's very hard to juggle the situation.
No, for sure, as we were mentioning, nowadays it's very challenging because at the end people buy the token to make money. 90% of investors in your token. It's not about the technology, it's not about the product, it's not about the utility, it's just they saw a tweet, they saw a post, a new project is coming out, and obviously everyone starts to think about the multipliers around it.
Including the VCs who are funding the project.
Exactly.
So the VCs, for a very long time, were much more happier to take tokens instead of equity. Why? Because they're liquid and they can dump them over the next 3 years.
And even I would say they still prefer tokens rather the traditional side, because it would take much more time to get dividends back from their investment.
Correct. But then that leads to the question, like, are they really good investors?
Yes.
Right? Because for a very long time, the world worked without tokens.
Yes.
And first you build a company, you build a successful company. If you build a successful company, then you're there for a very long time and you can, take market share, et cetera, and you make money and pay dividends. That's what happened for a very long time in the world.
Yes.
As when you add speculation to it and quick returns, obviously things go a bit haywire.
Something else that we wanted to touch base is the real-world asset side, RWA. Everyone here nowadays, it's pretty much one of the popular categories out there when it comes to volumes in RWA. But yes, let's explain the real-world asset side. We can mention we have Ondo Finance nowadays, which is regulated in New York and in the States, which are supplying real estate, tokenizing and digitizing as well physical items. But yeah, what is Sabine?
I would say real-world assets is one of the best use cases for a token nowadays. It is like in Dubai, many real estate projects have been tokenized. Like they sold a whole, what was it, like a big apartment building in a day with on the token. And it's all on the blockchain. It is all open source and verifiable. It is in my opinion also like mining companies tokenize their mining projects, like gold mining or whatever. Also in NFT space to verify certificates and even degrees on universities. Have an NFT that verifies it. It is really a really good use case. It is still a long way to go, but I think that is also in education, same, as I mentioned. So,
I think the answer why real-world assets are so popular nowadays is very simple. Let's make a step back 50 years ago, 60 years ago, our parents could easily purchase a house or apartments. And nowadays, the younger generation, they just don't have money to purchase apartments, but they have some money to invest. And that's why they are trying sometimes to earn money, to win money from speculation or so-called investments in such assets. And that's it.
I also think RWA is also what's going to bring more retail investors into the mix. So retail investors are ourselves, Tom, Dick and Harry, right? And that essentially we will help sort of each and every individual own a piece of an investment without going through large institutions. But I will also add the negative side to this, because as much as it's exciting, I do think that there needs to be some form of regulation, at least from an RWA perspective. Now, I don't believe in over-regulation because that stifles innovation. But the more we see retail investors coming in, like myself and other people who want to buy these type of assets, we do need to secure the interests of the average investor. Again, I say this very cautiously because we don't want to over-regulate where we get to a point where to do an RWA, you need to do an IPO phase or something so complex, because that will bring us back to our initial process, which takes forever and millions to start to have an IPO. So again, with every positive, there's always obviously a negative, but I still think that can be addressed through proper regulation.
No, and I agree with you. It's a fact that sometimes regulation kills the innovation side of it. And it's pretty clear when it comes to cryptocurrencies and the blockchain side in general, because we're facing a lot of different regulations in different markets, but realistically, all of these businesses and people working in cryptocurrencies and the emerging tech side, they all correlate and connect from one side to another. So we would need to have a standardized regulation side. Matthew?
Yeah, I think the question of why are RWAs successful is blockchain technology, apart from the tokens and the speculation and all of that, right? Blockchain technology is great to change the rails with which the financial system works, right? And you can see that why are stablecoins the most successful crypto product out there? Because it makes it easy for anyone in the world to receive payment, which was impossible up till a few years ago. Impossible, unless you go through someone who's going to take an exorbitant percentage.
And very expensive.
Super expensive, right? So now, this is why the large banks in the world are now co-opting blockchain. Why? Because it will save them 30-40% operational costs. Because now, instead of having T+3, which is mind-blowing, you're going to have T plus nearly zero, T0. Which means I can transfer funds from wherever I want in the world to somewhere else, and they're immediately transferred without them being blocked. So as soon as the large banks understood that the technology was great, then obviously they're going to tokenize everything because their operational costs are going to be reduced. DeFi shows that it's working, and that's very important, right? So people will move to DeFi because it's working, because it offers me better yields. So if I put my euros in a bank account, in Malta I get nothing. Maybe on Revolut I get 2%. If I put that on DeFi, I'm getting 5%, 7% per year.
On stables, because then eventually there's other cryptocurrencies that you can earn 15, 20%.
But then the price of those can go down.
Then, yes.
So let's not talk about those. Because but for stablecoins, and stablecoin is a real-world asset. At some point, once the rails have been built, we can transact everything. My house, your house, cars, whatever we want. And the rails are there now, so it will happen. RWAs.
In general, I would say we are limiting the boundaries of us utilizing our own assets, currencies, and so on. Guys, only 30 seconds left. Last question that I wanted to put out is, how do you see the future evolving around all of this? Tokenization, having a token, utility, security. Should people invest in a token or wait till proper regulations out? Fabio.
So 3 seconds. RWAs for sure will survive. I would say investment, so companies rather than using IPOs or going to stock market, they will use their own token. And yes, I think utility tokens will definitely have space for
Matthew?
I mean, blockchain is tech, so it's going to be around for a while, but you don't use all tech to solve every problem in the world. So we'll see how it evolves.
Sabine?
Again, the blockchain technology is amazing, and it will become the new way of transacting. SEPA and SWIFT will die, and everything will be transacted on the blockchain. A part of that, as I mentioned, real-world assets, which is already stablecoins, tokenizing buildings, it will become more and more part of our day-to-day life without the user even knowing, because users don't know how SEPA works, how the transaction is when I send on Revolut. And that's the way blockchain will be. It will be implemented without the user knowing it.
Mike?
Yeah, finally, I also support your position regarding blockchain as a payment method, as a method of transferring money from one guy to another. But if we speak about small products, first of all, think about your utility. That's the main thing.
Thank you everyone for joining, and have a great day.